BRR Property Investing for Beginners. My name's Ryan from Next Level Property Investing, part of the Luke Holmes Academy, and I'm going to show you exactly how I do BRR. In brief, BRR stands for Buy, Refurbish, Refinance, and then some people add another R on, which is for rent as well, so BRRR. It's a lot to say, but hey ho. So what we're basically doing is we're going to use a pot of money and we're going to fund the property. So ideally we're looking for properties that we can add value to. If you can't add value to the property, it doesn't necessarily mean you can't do BRR, but it helps if you do. So the valuers want to be seeing that you've actually added value, and typically properties that don't need any value adding to them, you're not going to get below market value price anyway. So unless they're really motivated, they have no other option, and yes, those deals are out there, but the majority of, in my experience anyway, the majority of our BRR projects have come from properties that are a bit run down, they've been left, there's damp issues, they've been empty for quite some time, they need modernisation, they've been lived in for 20, 30, 40 years, you know, tends to be people that have been taken into care or unfortunately they've passed away, and you know, these properties are in serious need of upgrades. Now, I don't ever really want to be doing too many sort of extensions. I just want to be quick in and out. So I look to do carpets, decoration, wiring if we have to, bathrooms and kitchens, and that's pretty much it. And we just keep it simple. So we're looking to acquire a property, and then we're looking to add some value, and then at the end of it all, we go for a remortgage on it, and at the uplifted price, and we try and pull out all of our initial investment money back in. So I do it in a couple of ways. One is a cash purchase. So if I straight bought a house for say £70,000, I would then spend maybe £10,000 on the refurb, and including solicitors, etc. And then that house would stand me around 80 grand. Now, what I would want to do is, and I would know the uplifted price before I even get into it. So I go on, you know, sites such as Rightmove, Zoopla, Mouse Price, you know, great sites to sort of give you a bit of an idea of what the house prices are in that street, in that area for that type of property. So it gives you the confidence that I know that that house done up properly would get reassessed at 115 grand. So what we then do is, once the refurbishment's finished, we then move that, we get the refurb done and completed. Once that refurbishment's finished, we then instruct our mortgage broker to go and get us a refinance on that property, and they then go for the 115, they send a value around, just like a normal process, they send a value around, and then we would get a 75% buy-to-let mortgage on the 115,000. Depending on what strategy I'm going to operate it under, depends on obviously the mortgage type and also the repayment method. I am putting a lot more stuff onto repayment as I get, you know, further and further ahead on my journey. I think initially you do a lot of stuff interest only to get your cash flow, but as you get bigger and as you've got, you know, sufficient cash flow coming into your business, and don't get me wrong, we always like more cash flow, but that your goals slightly change, and you start looking at maybe, like I've done, is putting them on repayments and starting to deleverage that portfolio. And I want to try and get the portfolio down to about a 55% loan to value, and then that gives us enough equity in the properties, but it also it keeps enough cash flow. So and ultimately I don't really want to dip below that, because I want to be able to, you know, use that money. So if we get to, you know, if we were just going to pay the mortgages off, I think that's money not well spent. So, but that's a different video. So we then go for refinance, we get the refinance at 115, we get the mortgage, and then we rent it out. And what that 115 does is it then, a 75% of the 115 releases all of our money back out, and then we go and buy another one. So that's how we do it on a cash option. On a mortgage option, or I bridge it first, I'd use a bridging loan, typically have to put down about 30% deposit. Now the fees can be quite steep on bridging loans, but I feel like if it helps you move quickly, then the fees can quickly be outweighed by the cash flow that's going to come in once you've acquired that property, once you've got the equity in the property. So bridging does serve a good purpose for me, and you know, investor finance is another option as well, which I'll come on to. But bridging loan, so we typically take a bridging loan out for 70%. We'll put up the 30% plus the solicitor's fees plus the bridging loan fees, and then we would, you know, same scenario, we'd buy the 70 grand property, we'd spend the 10 grand on it, get it uplifted, and then we would get it revalued at 115. What would then happen is the 75% that comes back off the 115, we'd then pay back the original bridging loan, and whatever's left between the bridging loan and what the new mortgage loan amount was, then we would use that to put back in our bank account, and we'd go and spend that. If we've done the due diligence right and we've got the deal right, we would leave minimal funds in the deal. I personally don't like to leave any more than about 6 or 7 grand in these deals. I think it really slows you down if you do. But you know, that goes up and down, because some deals are good and some deals are bad. You know, sometimes you get a bad deal on the face of it, but then you might be able to save on the refurb costs and you end up with a good deal. Sometimes you get a good deal, you get a good price, you have a bad refurb, things go wrong, and ultimately your costs go up and your money gets stuck. You know, there's a lot of variables in this, and you're never going to get a perfect deal. But as long as you do the majority of everything pretty spot on, then you're going to not get too much cash tied up, and you're going to be able to keep that momentum going forward. The next way to fund your deals is through investor finance. There's a lot of people out there with 50, 100, 150, £1,000 lying around getting no interest in the bank. So you come along and you offer them maybe 8, 10, 12% return, whatever you feel comfortable with, whatever you can strike an agreement with. And effectively they become the cash buyer, like we discussed at the very beginning in option 1, where they would front the cost of the purchase. They get a charge against the house as their security, and then you're obviously going to pay them a monthly return back. This option is a lot quicker than using bridging. It's not as in-depth with the legals, and it just moves a lot quicker, I find, in my experience. Typically, you tend to work with the same investors, and once you get the first one on board and you can show people what you're doing, you tend to have a pot that you kind of work with, and they're comfortable with what you're doing and vice versa, and it just works very well. So the solicitors use the same and everything works very quick. A bit like cash purchase. You know, when you're buying a property for cash, you can complete in about 3 to 4 weeks. It's a much quicker process. But you've got to kind of, as you go through your journey with BRR, I think you end up with a good mix. So you use your own money to start off with, you get the experience, you then start using bridging money, and then you'll use or you might use bridging money first, and then you use your money once you've built your pot a bit further, and then obviously you can also use investor money at the same time as well. And in an ideal world, you want to be running all 3 options, because if you are, it means you're spreading your money as much as you can, and you're getting as many deals as you possibly can on board. So, you know, ultimately you can only get so much cash flow out of a property, so you want to move quick and you want to get as many of these deals on board as you can. So what I like to do is move quick. So, you know, the minute that we get the keys, I like to be starting to apply for the remortgage, you know, get the refurbs. I've got everything organized before we even get the keys. So I'm always on with solicitors of completion date. I need the completion date. I'm always keeping the refurb teams, you know, the plumbers, the decorators, everybody in the loop with what's happening and when I'm going to need them where. And then as soon as we get the keys, we tend to put a key box on the property, so it's ease of access. There's no passing the keys around, and everyone just then goes in and does their bit, and we work like a very well-oiled machine. Don't get me wrong, sometimes these things don't go to plan, but in general, you know, most of the projects, they work very well, quite seamless, and we get the jobs done. We get these places turned around in like 2 to 4 weeks, and you know, ultimately we've got them rented out within a month of actually taking the keys, which is the perfect scenario for not only your profit, but just, you know, getting onto the next deal. Because once they are set up, you can pretty much forget about them. You know, if you've got good systems and processes in place to onboard tenants, manage tenants, onboard guests, host guests, you know, then once you've done the hard work of acquiring the property, you know, financing it, and then, you know, you got the refurb done and dusted, you can pretty much just then, you know, pass it off and then just sit back and collect the money each month. And that is the great thing about property. You know, it is a very much, not so much set and forget strategy, but you can sort of set it and then, you know, minimal effort thereafter. So it's even service accommodation, even HMOs, you know, yes, they're a bit more time intensive and labor intensive, but you can put people in the right places, you can put systems in the right places, you can have VAs, etc., to make your personal time still very much passive. So hope that helps. If you are wanting to you know, continue watching, I'm dropping videos every day. Don't forget to subscribe. And if you want to take your journey to the next level, head over to nextlevelpropertyinvesting.com and book a free strategy call with myself, and you never know what we might get out of that. Take care.